So here we are, Sunday morning for the rant. It's not a particularly nice Sunday morning this morning. It's sort of a bit muggy and a bit horrible, really, if I'm honest. But it is Sunday. And today, what I thought I'd do is I'd do a piece about being scammed. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I've been watching the forums for probably about the last month, and I've been noticing a number of people are saying that they've bought a piece of equipment and it's not as described, or it's not what it was meant to be, or they haven't received a piece of equipment, and what's their recourse on this? Now my answer to that is eBay and PayPal have mechanisms in place to sort of help you get your money back, but the better idea is not to be scammed in the first place. And since I'm a prolific buyer of equipment and seller of equipment on eBay, I thought I would tell you some of the things I look for when I'm buying equipment. The first thing on an eBay listing is always going to be the photograph. And why the photograph? Well, because the photograph is what draws you into the listing. So it may say a TR-808 drum machine, and there will be a photograph of a drum machine, and hopefully it's a TR-808. But it's the photograph that draws you in. So you look at the photograph and you decide whether this is something you are prepared to bid on. It's a subconscious thing in the mind. You don't tend to bid on words. You tend to bid on pictures. Hence the reason why in the early days they always wanted to put photographs in. Now, with a photograph, the first thing to look for is it a stock photograph? As in, has it been done by somebody else, and all this person has done effectively is gone onto the internet, found somebody else's photograph, copied it and put it into their listing as the item you're going to buy. If that is the case, walk away. Don't worry, don't even contemplate buying this. It's a stock photograph. There is some problem here. You are being drawn in. That's my honest opinion. Now, the guy on the other end might be the best person in the world. He just hasn't had a chance to take a photograph. But if it's a stock photograph, it's a walk-away item for me. The second thing is the no photograph scenario. And what do I mean by the no photograph scenario? Well, quite often I've seen eBay listings where it's matched a search criteria I've got on eBay and it says photograph to follow. Now, there could be a genuine reason why the person hasn't taken a photograph, but in my opinion, if you haven't taken a photograph before you list the piece of equipment, then again, it's a red flag to me. I normally walk away, unless it's something I'm really after, in which case I may watch the item, and then typically a photograph never appears. People bid for it. God knows why they bid for it. And if they get stung, they get stung. But for me, a no photograph scenario is I'll walk away again. With a photograph, what you're looking for is you're looking to see photos of the item you want. So if the vendor has put one photograph of an item from an angle, the first thing you need to be asking is, what is wrong with this piece of equipment? Because a genuine vendor who is wants to sell the equipment and is trying to be honest with you will put lots of photographs on there. 6 or 7 photographs of the equipment taken from all angles. So taken from the sides, taken from above, and importantly taken from behind. And what a lot of vendors are doing now is they're also taking photographs of the power strip, as in the power, where the power goes in, so you know which region this piece of equipment originated from or was originally sold into. Because obviously, if you buy in the UK, if you buy something at 100 volts, you need a step-down transformer to get from 240 volts down to 100 volts for that piece of equipment to work. Otherwise, you're going to fry it. So, always make sure there are lots and lots of photographs. One photograph is not good enough, and don't be afraid if there is one photograph of getting in contact with the vendor and saying, "I'm really interested in this. Can you take photographs from a number of angles and put those on the listing?" Now, eBay, I'm not sure, I can't remember off the top of my head where the limit is, but I think you can put about 4 or 5 photographs on eBay without incurring extra charges. Now, in days of old, they used to charge you an amount of money per photograph, but believe you me, if somebody is genuine, they will put a number of photographs of the equipment from a number of angles. And the other thing about photographs is what they will do is, if they are genuine, they will draw your attention to issues with the piece of equipment. Now, if you get a vendor who has taken the time to take a photograph of something and said, look, there is an issue here, that tells me that that is a genuine listing, because he or she is trying to be honest with you. Right. If the photographs are blurry, ask the vendor to put some clear, crisp photographs up. If they refuse to do so, that normally tells me something's going on here. Again, that's a walk away moment. Okay, you need clear photographs of the equipment, and hopefully any issues the vendor has taken a photograph of and highlighted to you. So, in basic terms, the photographs should be of sufficient detail for you to form an opinion of how harshly this piece of equipment has been treated in its former life. Once you get over the photographs, then you start looking at the description of the item. Now, a lot of people, and I've seen this so many times, basically what they do is they will take somebody else's review of that piece of equipment off the internet. They will copy and paste it into the description. Now, that's all well and good, because it tells you what this piece of equipment does, okay, and it may have some important information like where to go and get the manual for it. But it doesn't tell you about what you are buying. It tells you about what it did when it left the factory. What you want in the description is a description of why. Well, look for things like, why are they selling it? If they're honest about why they're selling it, I'm having a studio clear out, don't need it anymore. Great. Not gigging anymore. Great. At least you have some idea of why they are selling this piece of equipment. Also look in the description for if they're being honest with you. So, the C3 key is dead. Great. There is an issue with the piece of equipment. They've been honest with you and said, this key is not working properly, or some of the buttons aren't working. At least they're being honest, but it should be in the description. Look for things like any history they can give you about the piece of equipment. Where has this piece of equipment been living before it made it onto an eBay listing? So typically, someone will write, it's been in a smoke-free studio for the last 5 years. Prior to that, it was in a studio somewhere else. Okay, you've got some history. It's been in the studio. Studio is going to be sort of fairly light use. I mean, I say fairly light use, but it's not going to have the harsh treatment that a piece of equipment that is on the road is going to get, because they will be thrown in the back of in the back of trucks. I'm going to say transit vans, but they're going to be thrown in the back of trucks. They're going to be moved around. If they're not in a good solid case, the internals are going to get knocked around. The case is going to get knocked around. There's probably the likelihood is this thing's been repaired at some point in its life cycle. So that's what you're really looking for. You're looking for a good understanding of what the history is of this piece of equipment. If the description has some sort of history in it, then that makes me feel that the vendor is being honest with me. And if the vendor's being honest with me, then I'm more likely to actually engage. I may send some questions off to the vendor and ask him a question, but that's, he is being honest. A standard review of the features and functions of the equipment, that is not good enough for a piece of equipment. You want to know where it's been and how it's been treated, because that gives you a rough idea of whether what you're buying is going to be worth what you think you're going to be paying for it. The third thing to look for, and this is something I always look for, is the payment options. So what do I mean? So typically, most listings on eBay will say pay by PayPal, right? If they say pay by PayPal, then you are covered if it is a scam. PayPal gives you and eBay give you a degree of coverage over what is being bought and sold on the platform. eBay from the perspective of have you bought what you think you've bought, and PayPal from the perspective of I've paid some money but haven't received goods. Okay, so working in concert, these two things give you a degree of protection. If you see things that say cash on collection, that to me normally is a flag. Okay, why is it a flag? Now, the first thing is you've got to go somewhere to pick it up, so the vendor is not prepared to put it in the post. Now, that could be genuine. It could be so big that it's going to cost a fortune to post it. Whereas, if you take a little van up there to wherever it is and put it in the back of a little van, you're going to save yourself some money. So there could be a genuine reason why this vendor is doing that. On the flip side, it also puts the flag in: is the vendor entitled to sell it? In other words, has it been stolen, or is it hooky? Because if it's hooky, and you go and buy it, and then it turns out to be stolen, guess what? You lose. Not only do you lose the money you paid to the vendor in cash, you'll also lose the piece of equipment, because that's how the law works. The equipment's returned to its owner, and the money is gone. Okay, so if you're looking at significant sums, and several £100, I would say, then be careful. Be careful. I mean, I remember bidding on something, and I realised it was cash on collection, and cancelled the bid, and the bid was about £1,200. Now at that point, I was sort of sitting there thinking, you know what? This doesn't feel right. Cash on collection. So I pulled out. I had to go to eBay to do it and say I wanted to cancel my bid, and eBay did it for me. But you're entitled to do that. The other thing is, if once you've bought it, it turns out to be a bag of spanners, as in you've gone and you've tested it, and let's face it, when you go and play something at somebody's house, you normally give it a tertiary chance. You really don't, unless you're buying something you've already had. You don't understand how it really works, so therefore you get it home and you start playing around with it. You get the manual off the internet, and then you find out it doesn't actually do any of the stuff it's meant to be doing. It's a bag of spanners. At that point, you've got no recourse. Okay, you've bought it. Carpe diem, buyer beware. So, always look for a standard payment method. PayPal is preferred in these instances. Even if you buy off another platform, and the vendor wants it in a certain way, ask him if you can transfer the funds through PayPal, because that is a guaranteed way of ensuring that somewhere down the line the vendor has a PayPal account and they are known to somebody. The other thing to look at is how is it advertised. Now, if you're buying second-hand keyboards, I would not expect to see anything that says new. If it says new, that's either the vendor can't be asked, which some can't, that's generally true, or it means there is something wrong with this. I'd expect to see used pieces of second-hand equipment listed as either two things: used or selling for parts. Now, a lot of vendors will sell a keyboard or a tone module for parts because they believe that if they sell it for parts and you say it doesn't work, they can say, but I told you so. But they are still expecting used working money for it. Now, I've had several scenarios. I mean, I can remember one where I was picking up the S50, and there was an S50 actually much closer than the one that I bought, and the guy wanted £500 for it, which I thought was over the top, and he was selling it for parts. And I said to him, if you're selling it for parts, you can't ask premium money for it. And he was like, no, it's working. I'm only selling it, because he was trying to pull the wool over my eyes. and I saw straight through it, and I refused to deal with it. And as far as I'm aware, he's not sold it yet. Good, because hopefully that teaches him a lesson. If you are selling something for parts, you can't expect premium money for it. It's as simple as that, and you shouldn't be paying premium money for it. So if somebody says, I have a DX7, now a good DX7 is in the realms of £350 in the UK, right? Second-hand DX7, £350, £400, that sort of area. If somebody says they're selling it for parts, I'd expect to see that DX7 listed for about £100 or less, depending on what's wrong with it. Because technically, selling for parts means not working, which means somebody's got to invest in it, and therefore you can't ask premium money for it. But people believe they can, and you shouldn't support that myth. If they put selling for parts, you should ask them what is wrong with it, and they should be honest and tell you what it is. Now, having the comments, I switched it on, the lights light up, and I can't test it any further. To be honest, is not good enough. You know, most people can plug an audio lead into the back of a keyboard and stick it into the back of a stereo and be able to tell it. Most of these speakers have some sort of auxiliary input, so you can get a sound out of it and at least test it doesn't work properly. Okay, or it's generating tones and it's generating noises. But I switched it on, the lights came up, and that's all I've done. And then they sell it as used. That's not good enough. It needs to be sold as selling for parts. And if it's selling for parts, don't pay premium prices. The other thing is look at postage, or how they're going to get it to you. Now, I can tell you now that most keyboards I can ship from one end of the country in the UK to the other end of the country in the UK by courier for about £20. Okay, I can arrange for the courier to pick it up from one end and the courier to deliver it where I want it delivered the other end, and it costs me about £20. Right? So even a big keyboard, right, depending on weight of course, but that's about how much it costs. So be mindful when they start looking at charging you exorbitant sums of postage. And quite often, what I've done to the vendor is, I will pay for the courier. Okay, because that way I am in control. I can arrange for when he's going to be around the other end, or she's going to be around the other end, should I say, and I can arrange for when I want it delivered this end. I'm not beholden to something there, and I'm not beholden to a cost. Now, smaller items you don't really have much say over, but definitely larger items, as I say, I can get it couriered. I can get it couriered by a reputable courier company, not Hermes or Yodel or someone like that, but a decent courier company for about £20–25. So that, in about 15 minutes, is my top tips for buying stuff on eBay, to make sure that you don't get scammed and you don't have to go through the mechanisms within eBay or PayPal to get your money back. On the flip side, of course, PayPal and eBay do have mechanisms in place to help you. The most important thing is, as soon as you realised you've got scammed, you need to get in touch with eBay and you need to get in touch with PayPal. Okay, because they will do things like stop funds, stop transactions, etc., etc. Now, if it's another platform like Gumtree or Reverb or one of the other selling portals, now they also may have things in place, but as long as you've used something like PayPal to actually move the funds backwards and forwards, you can stop the transaction while they are investigating your issue. So what I'm trying to say is, it is buyer beware. It's very much caveat emptor. But just by taking a savvy approach to buying things on eBay or one of the other platforms, you can protect yourself from the scam artists. It's a shame to say that there are people out there and their sole goal in life is to scam you and me out of our hard-earned money. And if you're a musician, and I've never really been a full-time musician, so I apologise for this statement. But if you're a musician, money is quite often hard to come by. Gigs, you pay gigs late into the night, etc., etc. So being scammed out of money when you're buying pieces of equipment is actually quite painful. On that sour note, I'm going to leave you and say, right, I'm off on business now. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. So it's that point where I say, did you enjoy it? Because if you did, please give this video a thumbs up. I'm sure by now, if you didn't enjoy it, you've given this video a thumbs down. That's just life. Not everybody enjoys everything, and I recognise that. Over here somewhere is a subscribe button. If you press the subscribe button, every time I upload content to the channel, you'll get a notification. I know I upload videos like this, which is sort of the rant. I upload videos about mailbag items, which is where you or your friends or other YouTubers have left comments on the channel about specific pieces of equipment, and I try to answer those. And I also do videos about the equipment that is within my studio, how to use it, how to take it apart, and sometimes how to repair it. That's what you get from subscribing. It'd be wonderful to see you as a subscriber at some point. Over here will be two videos. One will always be the latest video that I've published to the channel. Another video will be selected at random from the channel based on your preferences by a YouTube algorithm, but it will always be a video from my channel. All that's left for me to do is say I hope to see you again soon, and bye-bye.